Hey guys, how are you? I'm Safi. Today we're going to edit a photo in Lightroom. It's a portrait, so it's going to be a three-part video. This one's going to be about basic colors, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the screen recording started. Let's open up Lightroom. Empty trash. So let's get started with setting the color temperature. Instagram. Now we could choose to go really warm or really white. That's going to be tough because either way there's going to be a whole bunch of options to go from. Actually, I like this. Already, I think that's perfect. So what I did was lower the temperature. It's 4,057. It was 4,700. 4,000. I'm just gonna come in and see. And then that I think perfectly balanced the picture. Then I came all the way to collaboration and I increased the green primary hue to plus 88, and as well as the red primary hue to plus 39. That is my base perfect, I think, color. Then I will go all the way to the top and we'll go from one box at a time. So what do we want to do? I mean, this picture is already so good. I have to give him credit. He's really good at what he does. Okay, let's get started. I'm gonna lower contrast to 50. I'm gonna increase brightness to plus 30. Then we're gonna come back to this original part. We're gonna go to tone curves. I wanna go to red, drop the reds as much as possible. And we're going to try to create 3 S curves with red, green, and blue. That will give it a natural, smooth contrast. Saturation contrast and contrast. So it's very interesting. I don't know the science behind it. All I know is it looks good. All right. We can decide to go green or we can bump it to a little red. I'm gonna try to see if I before, after, before, after. I think we're gonna go to the blue now. We're only gonna drop it just a little bit. It looks like to 22.7%. That says it right here on the corner edge, if you're wondering. The straight line is at 24.3. So we're gonna drop maybe a little bit less. 23.5. Okay, that's done. I think that's perfect almost. This is the before, and she pops out way more in the second. Let's bump up highlights a little bit. We're gonna bump up shadows too. Actually, I don't know, because really bright looks really good, but dark looks moody. I'm gonna go with bright. So, and then just drop the blacks. Increase the whites. So my highlights are plus 62, shadows are plus 25, contrast is minus 49. Shadows are plus 22. Before, after, before, after. We can save a lot of time by reducing the texture, but let's increase the texture and get rid of it and frequency separation later, so it compensates, because we're going to end up losing texture with the frequency separation method. And bump the clarity just a little bit. Or I could make it dreamy, you know? If you lower the clarity, it looks dreamy. But let's lower the clarity by 7 and bump up the texture by plus 7. Dehaze. We'll dehaze it by 2. Vibrance. If we do that. Increase vibrance by plus 8. And no, let's just plus 5. She's getting a little red in the neck. Now we're done with the original color temperature. We're done. So what I did was set color temperature, because that's very important. That's the most difficult road you take, is what do I want out of this photo? Do I want it to be warm and like, you know, those summer tones people do for weddings, or do I want it cold and moody? It's kind of your choice at the end of the day, whatever looks good to your eye. So you're training your eye right now, but there are certain things that you want to stay away from, and that's over contrasting, blowing out highlights, or, you know, certain things like that. Let's add a, what is this called? I don't know what this is called. You're just gonna put it right here. And it's gonna be shadows. We're going to before, after. I just lit up that side. I don't like it too dark. So just to show you the before and after of what this does. Before, it's a little darker. After, it's a little bit brighter. Why? Because... Why? Why did I do that? I mean... Before, after. I like it being a little bit brighter because I think she pops out more if the surrounding areas are a little bit brighter. But it does add a nice contrast to her side of her face and gives it more of a focus on her eyes and lips and nose. So what do I do? I'll just make it a little bit brighter. +5. Okay, now we're gonna focus on the eyes. Let's zoom in. Fill. We're going to invert feather max. Put this right in the center. Not feather max if I'm going to do it that way. And then turn the shadows down a little bit. Where's clarity? So we're going to make the eyes a little bit more blue by lowering the temperature. We're going to bump up the highlights and then lower the shadows. Keep the shadows at +18 because you don't want them to look too unnatural. 23 +23, whites are at +30. Clarity is like way up. That makes it a little darker but sharper. It looks cool in my opinion. Okay, let's see what it looks like when you fit it. It looks like too much clarity and not enough shadows. There you go. I think that's the perfect. So we basically bumped up the clarity. We increased the exposure by 0.16. Kept the highlights up, shadows at 36, whites and clarities. And boom. Before, after. So now you're just going to duplicate this. Right click, duplicate, and drag it on to the other eye. And just one-on-one it. Make sure it's just on the eye. And done. As you can see, the focus was set on her right eye. The left eye is blurry. We're going to reduce this by a tad to 21 exposure. 21 shadow. Drop the shadows to 21. So before, after. Okay. We're almost done, guys. Because we did the eyes, we did... we're going to do the rest in Photoshop and dodge and burn. So let's worry about colors. I think making the lips a little bit more red adds color variability. One of the photographers that posted this challenge said that pictures look much more better, more professional, and for some reason we like it more when there's color variability. So from the skin tones, there's color variability, pink, shades of pink and white and other colors. Getting rid of those would technically, what he said was, lowers the aestheticness of the photo. So adding a little bit of color variability goes a long way. So I'm gonna put this at -1. I bumped up the reds to -6. Now I'm gonna add some green to it to make the other colors come out. And there you go. So the yellows, when you add yellows, it makes the greens come out too. So that's at +33. But then I'm gonna reduce the greens on her hair, so it's just, you could see the yellow adds green, but there is some defragmenting happening on her hair that shows green. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And I'm gonna match the background to purplish blue, not aqua. There's the red saturation. I'm gonna lower that by -5. I'm gonna keep the oranges the same. I'm gonna keep the yellows the same. I'm gonna desaturate the greens by -47. I'm going to increase the aqua blues in the back by 17, as well as the blues by 10. No, by like 6. There's some weird defringing happening at the edge of her reflection because he's using probably like a DVD or something, or a prism. I don't know what he's using, but he's using something. Yeah, so we'll keep the aquas at +17, the blues at +6, and lowering the purples to -40, and the magentas to -37. It gets rid of some of that defringing at the edge. We're going to brighten her lips by +10. We're going to brighten up her face. By +6. We're going to look at how much the yellow changes her facial structure. The more yellow you put, the more thin her face becomes. The less yellow you put, the more chubby it becomes. And it's not even like that chubby. It's just the actual light, the way it hits your face, it shows which is the highest and lowest parts of your face. So taking that away would technically change the model's facial features, making it more flat, and you don't want that. So the yellow and the luminance, the more you put it out, the more protrude and coming out her face looks. Here's some before, here's after. Before, you see how everything is one color because of the color temperature? I dropped the color temperature, brightened up her, made her skin more red, and then added blues in the back and her eyes. So, but what I'm noticing is that her skin is a little red now. I'm not going to touch the luminance on the yellows because I feel like I'm changing her facial features. We're going to bump up the luminance on the green. It makes her hair bright. we're going to increase the aqua luminance of the background. As well as the blue luminance, but we're going to add saturation to the blues. No, we're not. We're not going to do that. We'll leave everything the same. Before, after. Now, the most creative aspect of Lightroom, which is split toning. If you do this correctly, you could have a better photo. But if you do this incorrectly, you could literally crap on all your work. So being very careful here is very important because there's so much change that could happen. So being subtle with all your movements is the goal. Don't push anything too far. I want to add a little bit of hue 45, which is yellow, in her highlights, and in her shadows I want to add blue. But then again, if you add red, it's even better. Okay. We're not going to add blues to the shadows. I want to make her skin pop out more, so we're going to add a little bit of yellow and red to her skin, like +7. Yep. Now we're going to sharpen her face and add a little bit of noise reduction. By holding the Option key, which is right here, obviously it's blown out, the camera's blown out. If you hold the Option key and click on mask, you could see what parts of the face you're sharpening. Since the eyes are already so sharp, I'm going to try to focus a little bit more on her lips and nose. And then I'm going to add a little bit of noise reduction. I'm also going to lower texture by 2 points and then put noise reduction to +15, and we will focus on noise reduction later in Photoshop Part 2, which is Photoshop dodging and burning and frequency separation the correct way, which I learned from these professionals that are posting like, I don't know if it was Jon.snip or I know one of them showed a tutorial on his video. I don't know if he posted it, but instead of using Gaussian blur for your frequency separation, which we're going to talk about, we're not ever going to use Gaussian blur. We're going to use noise and then add median, which is a way better alternative for getting rid of hair on the outside. Anyways, that's a whole tutorial. For the most part, I'm really happy with this photo. I could post it right now and I think it would be pretty cool, get a lot of likes, but export, not a lot of likes. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about pre-skin retouch. Quality at a 100. Oh, cut, paste. Pre-skin retouch and export. Alright guys, I'm gonna leave the photo up right now while I talk. Thank you for being here and listening to me jabber on for maybe 25 minutes. But I hope you learned a little bit of my process and how I navigate through editing my photos. I think it's very, very important to figure out what colors suit your style by practicing with everything, a plethora of tools. That's why I go through every segment to make sure, you saw my style, you know how I do it. I literally focus on all the little parts, but I add just a hint of things. And when you're done, you have this awesome picture with little tweaks here and there that really do make a big difference together. Thank you for watching this tutorial with me, and come back for part 2 of frequency separation. Peace.